Since her embarrassing loss to Donald Trump, an orange clown who anyone should have been able to beat, Hillary Clinton is not taking any time off. Now, what is she choosing to do in her newfangled free time? Well, instead of trying to make the world a better place and directing her immense power and wealth towards a good progressive cause, Hillary Clinton instead is choosing to be a sore loser and is now taking aim at the First Amendment.
Let me just mention briefly one threat in particular that should concern all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, especially those who serve in our Congress. The epidemic of malicious fake news and false propaganda that flooded social media over the past year. It's now clear that so-called fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk, lives of ordinary people just trying to go about their days, to do their jobs, contribute to their communities. It's a danger that must be addressed, and addressed quickly. Bipartisan legislation is making its way through Congress to boost the government's response to foreign propaganda, and Silicon Valley is starting to grapple with the challenge and threat of fake news. It's imperative that leaders in both the private sector and the public sector step up to protect our democracy and innocent lives.
So what she said there may seem relatively benign, but trust me, there are very disturbing implications with what she's saying. So she says, quote, "Fake news can have real-world consequences. This isn't about politics or partisanship. Lives are at risk." Now, I find this statement pretty ironic when it comes to Hillary Clinton, specifically with respect to fake news, because Hillary Clinton believed fake news that led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. So, for example, when she was a senator from New York, she believed the fake news story that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and that led her to vote for the Iraq War, which is one of the biggest foreign policy blunders in American history. Hillary Clinton wasn't speaking out against fake news then, was she? No. In fact, she was silent on fake news. She believes fake news stories, and it leads to the deaths of thousands of Iraqi civilians, and she doesn't really care. It leads to the death of thousands of American troops. You know, she's silent. But now that it caused her to lose an election, allegedly, now she cares about fake news. And also, I want to know where Hillary Clinton was during the primary when there was a lot of fake news spread against Bernie Sanders that really hurt his campaign. So, for example, there was the fake Bernie Bros narrative that all of his supporters were just deranged misogynists that hated Hillary Clinton specifically because she was a woman, which is factually incorrect because we supported Elizabeth Warren before Hillary Clinton got into the race, before we knew that Bernie Sanders would run, and second of all, we voted for Jill Stein. But nonetheless, this story was very prevalent, and almost everyone in the mainstream media bought it, and many individual voters bought it as well. Did Hillary Clinton come out and condemn this fake news story saying, no, Bernie Sanders supporters are progressive. Bernie Sanders identifies as a feminist, and he's fought for women's rights. He has a record in the Senate and in the House showing that he stands up for women's rights. Did she do that? No, she was silent on fake news then. And also, when it comes to fake news, David Brock, who is basically the head of the left's Breitbart, he was perpetuating so much fake news about Bernie Sanders. He said that because Bernie Sanders didn't feature enough diversity in one of his ads, well, he must be racially insensitive. He created this fake narrative that Bernie Sanders was just running a divisive, disgusting campaign where all he could do was smear Hillary Clinton, when in actuality, that's what he was doing. But Hillary Clinton didn't condemn fake news then. So I'm just curious, Hillary Clinton, why is it that you only choose to speak out about fake news if it impacts you getting elected? But when fake news kills people, literally, in foreign countries, when fake news is used to smear your opponents, why don't you care about that then? Don't you think your priorities are kind of messed up if that's the only time you're choosing to care about fake news? Now, another thing that she said there, it's a danger that must be addressed and addressed quickly. Bipartisan legislation is making its way through Congress to boost the government's response to foreign propaganda. So this is really troubling to me. Now, I don't want to downplay the problem that is fake news, because I do agree that fake news is a problem in this country. The number one news network in the country is effectively a fake news network that just peddles propaganda for the Republican Party. And look, when you look at news networks, so-called, quote, news networks like Breitbart and InfoWars, they literally fabricate news and people believe it. They make things up and so many people buy it. And you have someone like Alex Jones who is exploiting his audience and is selling them supplements on top of misinforming them with complete and utterly bogus conspiracy theories. So I'm not going to say that fake news is not a problem. And I wish that people would educate themselves so that way they can choose to be a more responsible consumer of media. Fake news is a problem. But does that mean that we need legislation to try to prevent fake news? No, because this is really scary. How do we determine what's fake news and what's not fake news? Because a lot of what Hillary Clinton did, which was fake news in my opinion, would not be considered fake news to her. So if you're going to allow the government to determine what's real and what's not when it comes to news, you really set up this slippery slope that allows them to do propaganda and to misinform the public. So if you think that legislation to address fake news will in fact stop fake news, you're just horribly mistaken. I don't know how this is something that's enforceable. It's not enforceable. So the answer is not legislation. The answer is more education. The answer is trying to inform the populace so that way we do make more informed decisions at voting booths. The answer is not to try to clamp down on the First Amendment and shut down people who propagate fake news or who say things that we disagree with. And this is exactly what any type of legislation to address fake news would do. So this is really an attack on the First Amendment that Hillary Clinton is waging. So you would think that she would instead try to take the extra time that she's going to have now to try to do something good in the world. But instead, she's choosing to be a sore loser and attack what she thinks caused her to lose this election. Well, Hillary Clinton, if you want to know why you lost, look in the mirror.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.